Today we're going to talk about art and literature. So art after the Renaissance. Art and music of the 17th century reflected the religious and political conflicts of the time. Mannerism reflected the anxiety and uncertainty of the period. And the Baroque movement brought together the classical ideas of the Renaissance and religious revival. So first, let's look at a painting. So this painting is known as the Beheading of St. John the Baptist. So you can see the other prisoners here in the cell block. The woman with the bin, basically, for his head. So Caravaggio, like other painters of the Baroque era, was interested in shadows and light. The strong light on the back of the executioner and John the Baptist and on the arm of the woman at the left, right here, strongly contrast the deep darkness elsewhere in the painting. So you can see the darkness in many other places. This painting is the largest that Caravaggio produced, measuring 520 centimeters by 361 centimeters. That's 17 feet by 11 feet. The pointing finger belongs to a janitor who is directing the executioner to finish the job. The woman waits with the platter for the head of John the Baptist. The Italian artist Michelangelo Merisi de Caravaggio, usually simply known as Caravaggio, completed the beheading of St. John the Baptist in 1608. The full painting, from which this is a segment, is an altarpiece at St. John's Cathedral in Valletta, Malta. The Knights of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, also known as Hospitaliers, commissioned the painting. So that's one example of Baroque. The golden age of literature occurred between 1580 and 1640. In England, William Shakespeare emerged as an important and popular playwright. The writer Cervantes and the playwright Lope de Vega became important figures in Spanish literature. The theater's affordability and accessibility and the wide appeal of the plays made the theater popular in England, Spain, and the Spanish Empire. So this is the Globe Theater. This was a huge hotspot in England. The Globe Theater was very close to the banks of the Thames River, which flows through London. And so here you can see the inside of the Globe. And so people would sit in the balconies and the play would happen right here. And I think there's even chairs right here. The Globe Theater is still open in England. You can still go and see a play there. It's very expensive, but you can still go and see a play there. And they actually have so you can actually see plays on YouTube that were conducted in the Globe Theater. And so they even have their own YouTube channel. That's kind of fun. I didn't know that was there. Back here. The theater was open air and close to circular. Most of the audience stood in the open air yard where they were unprotected from the elements. There were 3 levels of seating for wealthier patrons. The balcony was used for scenes in plays such as Romeo and Juliet. The stage had a trapdoor used for the appearances of characters such as a ghost in Hamlet. Plays during Shakespeare's time typically used very little scenery and had few set pieces such as furniture. Shakespeare was a partner in the group of actors that actually built the theater. The Globe was one of several theaters in the neighborhood. Other nearby theaters included the Rose, the Hope, and the Swan. This engraving shows the Globe Theater where many of Shakespeare's plays were first performed. So let's actually, let's go on a Globe tour.
Grammarly helps make your writing clear and concise, no matter where you are. Compose a cover letter.
Shakespeare's theatre rebuilt recently, but it was originally constructed in the 17th century, and its name is the Globe, which comes from the expression everyone in the world is an actor. The conditions at the time when this would have been built were very different from the way actors work now. It was all done during the day because they didn't have enough money to afford candles to put on the plays at night. So there would have been far more interaction between the public and the actors. And in fact, the groundlings, which were the cheapest seats just under the open cover, they would shout at the actors and throw things at them if they didn't like the play. At the time as well, none of the actors were women because they weren't allowed to be in plays. And also the church was very critical of theatre. It called it the nest of the devil, and it was usually just outside the city walls because it wasn't really allowed in those days. It was seen as something very popular and affordable because, just as I said before, the cheapest seats could be afforded by everyone. So this is where the groundlings stand, and to come here it's only £5 to see a play, and they say it's one of the best places, even though if it rains, umbrellas aren't allowed, so you're going to get wet. But they say it would have been the best place as well, because the audience participated, so you were right next to the actor's foot. You could see up his nose, and if he spat down at you, as I said, there's no umbrellas allowed, so it would have been a big problem. But there's great participation because the audience can see you, the actors, everybody's involved in the play, which makes kind of a difference from the typical West End play where everybody's in the dark. Here, you felt like you were really part of it.
Known as the heavens. There's a trapdoor in heaven as well, which is open at the moment. And you come down from heaven on a... It does look quite dangerous.
The Globe Theatre puts on plays mainly by Shakespeare, and they're pretty authentic, even down to the finest details, like the original 17th century underwear, so it's probably not that comfortable. And nowadays, we go and see a play, but back then, the most important thing was the acoustics. It was more important that you heard the play, and so wherever you sat, the more expensive seats were the ones that had the best sound. The stage represents three different elements. The top with the zodiac signs, that's painted blue, represents heaven or the sky. There's even a trapdoor you can come down from. And then the stage itself represents the earth, and there's a trapdoor to go underneath, which represents hell. Shape kind of increases the sense of participation. The building itself, though, was hard to get permission for because, remember, in the 17th century it had burned down twice. So to make this thatch kind of roof after the Great Fire of London was pretty tough to do. It took them 8 years to get permission, but they finally managed to go ahead with it. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Not if it's a summer's day in London.
So there's a fun little virtual field trip for you. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to go back into your Canvas course, work on your reading essentials, the discussion question, the quiz, and the assigned Edgenuity module.